everybody, this is Kevin, and welcome to another build video, but not a rocket build video, a rocket part build video. This is the Eggtimer Mini Hobby Rocketry GPS Tracking Transmitter Kit. Now, if you saw my recent launch day video, you know I've already gotten one of these, and unfortunately it was destroyed. I shouldn't say destroyed, but it was broken badly enough where it doesn't quite work anymore, which is equivalent to being destroyed. But so I had to quickly order a new one. So I did order one and I got it in, and I did not show the building of the first one because I'm still relatively new to electronics and soldering. Well, I'm not new to soldering, but I'm new to the techniques that are required for soldering these kits up. The first kit I built, I really took my time because I didn't really know what I was doing. I had to go step by step and think things out methodically. But now that I've built one of these, I feel a little more confident in showing you the process and kind of following along as we build it. So let's go ahead and rip into the bag here and check the components and make sure we've got everything that's on the inventory list. I will say though, this unit worked beautifully up until the point where it didn't. And what caused that was an unexpected rapid deceleration into the ground. We'll put it that way. Let's just empty all the parts out, and then we'll go through the checklist of items. Okay, looks like that's it for the bag. Now the way Eggtimer works is you download the manual from their website. You can print it up, you can just keep it on your computer as a PDF, whatever you want to do. I do both. I save it as a PDF and then I print it up and staple it together, and I make a nice little follow-along guidebook, and that's what I'm going to be using off-site here, just off the side of the table. So I'll be following along and showing you the steps as we go. Now it does come with an inventory list, which should match up to what's in the manual. So we'll go ahead and use this first. Okay. So the first thing we need to look for is our circuit board with a pre-mounted GPS module. That would be this guy right here. There's our circuit board. And just so you know, that kind of beige box on top, that is the actual GPS module. And unfortunately, that was the item that was destroyed. And I will say destroyed in the crash. This took quite a hit, and it no longer works. So that's why we needed to replace it. So we've got that, check. We need the RF module. That is this part right here. Very finely crafted circuitry. Okay, then we've got a voltage regulator. Now this is where it gets interesting. I'm gonna have to try to zoom in best I can. Or I'll hold them up to the camera so you can see the individual items, but it gets tricky because they're tiny. I mean, I'm talking tiny, super small. Okay, so the voltage regulator is, where's it at? It's gonna be this little guy here. It's got 3 prongs on one end and 1 tab on the other end. That is our 3.3 volt regulator. Okay, so we've got that. I'm gonna leave it in this little package here until we need it, but we've got that. Okay, the next thing we need to do is look for our MBRS 130 diode. It's the black part with the stripe on one end. It's really hard to see, but there it is. Okay. Our amber LED, it may be a clear one. Okay, here's our LED. I mean, look how tiny that is. All right. Then we need our 330 ohm size resistor marked 331 or 3300. Okay. Let me set these guys aside. These guys are labeled, but they're so tiny. Okay. This is it. It is labeled 331. Teeny tiny. You might be able to see that in the light, hopefully. But so they actually give you two. You only need one. Okay, we need a 0.1 UF 1206 size capacitor. That's the brown part in paper tape. Now, when Eggtimer says paper tape, it's the white backing. And again, they give you two little capacitors, but you're only going to need one. But because they're so small, it doesn't hurt to have an extra one in case one goes flung across the room. Okay, our next one is a 1 UF 1206 size capacitor, and it has a black stripe. Okay, that would be this guy here. See, the capacitor is brown, but it's got a black stripe on the back of the plastic. Okay. Then the next one is going to be our 4.7 UF capacitor, and it has a green stripe. Okay, for obvious reasons, we're going to call this the green striped one. And again, they give you two, and you only need one. Okay, our next one is a 10 UF capacitor, brown in clear tape with no stripe. And you can tell there's no stripe on that one, it's just clear plastic. And once again, they give you two, you only need one. Okay, we need a 3-pin right angle header strip. Here's our 3-pin right angle. Obviously called that because it's got 3 pins and it is bent at a 90-degree right angle. Okay. Then we need two of these. We need two 2-pin 2mm headers. And sure enough, there's two of them. Okay, and we need a 1 shorting jumper. Now they give you 2 jumpers, but you only need 1. But they do give you 2. And that is it. For loose items in the back package, they give you your stubby antenna, which is right here. Your coil of clean solder. I'm sorry, no clean solder wire. And it is clean, by the way. And an 8-inch 3-conductor jumper, and this is for plugging into your computer to ensuring that it is all done correctly, because the computer can read the data readout verifying all your solder joints are correct. All right, so let me clear the board and we will start with step 1 in the build. And yeah, let me clean this up and we'll get going. Okay, as you can see on the board here, I've got the main circuit board taped down to my surface, which is a very important thing. Some people use little clamp vices, other such things to hold it. But personally for me, I find just a couple strips of masking tape, lock it down nice and secure. And the first thing we need to do is take our 0.1 UF capacitor and take it out of the packaging. And I do that with a little hobby knife. Just kind of peel the backing off. I guess this is probably a better side to do. Again, very tedious work, and but it's so rewarding when it's over and done with. Okay, there's open. Just gonna hopefully it'll drop out. There it goes. Okay. I mean, you can see how tiny that thing is. And that's not even the smallest item on this board. Okay, so we're gonna have this ready to go. Gotta always carry a pair of tweezers with you when you're doing fine soldering. I've got my iron preset at 680 degrees Fahrenheit, and I've got the tip cleaned and tinned. Let me clean it off on a wet sponge a little bit. Got to have the solder out of the bag. The solder they give you in these kits is really, really good quality solder. Okay, so the first item is mounting this 0.1 UF capacitor onto the board at these 2 pads right here. Okay, those first 2 there. The way we're going to do it is we're going to heat one pad up and then feed some solder down into it to tin the surface. go. Now the tricky part. Taking your capacitor, and you want to heat the solder up and drop the capacitor into the wet solder. Just like so. Let it cool to harden, and then hopefully this will stay on camera. I'm going to rotate it this way so I can get a better angle at that pad. And I'm going to heat the pad and then feed the solder in. Just like so. A little bit more. There we go. That's a better joint. Okay, and back to this side. And I'm going to fill in the side now with a little more. There we go. Okay, so that's one capacitor down. Now we're going to take our next capacitor, which is our tin UF. That's going to be the one in the clear tape. So it's going to be this guy right here. Okay. Okay, same procedure as before. And it's going to go in these two pads right here, okay? I'm going to heat this one up. That way the pad will accept the solder better. Okay, there we go. You'll notice this capacitor is a little bit taller than the first one. Okay, we're going to melt the solder and then drop the capacitor into it. Yeah, it's a little crooked for my liking, so we're going to straighten it up a little bit. There. Okay. I'm going to tin this end. Okay, come back to this side and get this side to full. Okay, that takes care of those first two capacitors. Okay, all right, the next step is mounting the LED light, and I've already got it taken out of its package. This is one tiny little guy. You can see it there. And you'll notice on one side of it's got a green arrow. That green arrow needs to coincide with the arrow that's on the board here. So I need to actually turn it around this way. Okay, it's going to face that direction on those two pads right there. Okay, so I'm going to pre-tin the first pad. You'll notice I had to move the masking tape down a little bit to reveal this pad. Okay. I need to flip it over but maintain that direction. There we go. Okay, and we're going to drop it in just the same way we did the capacitor. rotate it. And then fill in this side. Okay, we'll come back to this side and fill this in. Just like so. Okay, that takes care of the LED. And again, that was the smallest part on this board. So really, if you can accomplish that, you can do anything on this kit. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is mount our voltage regulator. That's going to be our 3-pinned little doohickey here. So now we're going from the smallest part to probably the largest part. Okay. Now we're gonna have to move the board again. To this direction. So now we flip the board upside down, and I'm just going to use a single piece of tape over the center to hold it in place. And you'll see it's going to be these three, let me point them out to you here, these 3 pads and that one big pad. Okay, now the first thing we want to do is get the big pad mounted. So I want to go ahead and heat up, let me turn it this way. We want to tin the large pad first. So we'll get that heated up. Okay. Take our regulator, and we're going to feed that large pad into that solder puddle we made. And we want to get the other 3 legs evenly spaced in those other 3 pads. Whoops. Okay, looks good. Now we'll flip it over this way, and we'll go ahead and get all 3 of those legs soldered into their pads. One. 2. 3. Nice. Okay. Come back to this side, and now we're going to coat that first pad again with full coverage. There we go. Nice. Okay, our next job is mounting the 331 resistor on the board, which is appropriately labeled as 331 right there at the tip of the iron. You can see that. So, same procedure. We're going to tin one side. Lay the capacitor into it. Or resistor, I mean. Okay. Then turn it this way. Do this side. And then come back to this side and finish it up. Nice. Okay. Okay, next up is our 4.7 capacitor, and it's going to go right there in those two spots right there on those pads. So let me take some solder, tin that pad. Okay. Lay the capacitor onto it. Okay, I'm gonna turn it all the way around and solder this side of it. Okay, we'll come back to this side again and clean it up. Okay, perfect. And next we're going to do one capacitor, one UF capacitor, and it's the one that's in the black stripe. Let's take one of these out. Okay, which is easier said than done, but they do eventually come out. Okay, and it's going to go in those two pads next to that previous one. So let's go ahead and tin that pad. Okay. Okay. And we'll do this side. And clean this side back up. Okay. Okay, the next item is our diode, and tricky thing about this is we're only going to solder one side of it to the two pads that it sits on. These two pads right here. We're only going to solder this pad because this pad is also attached to the positive side of the battery terminal, and we're going to wait on that until we actually connect the battery wire. So we're just going to connect this pad to the diode for now. And the other thing to keep in mind is on the board there's a white stripe. I don't know if you can see it right there next to the pad. It needs to coincide with the stripe that's on the diode, and hopefully it'll focus, but if you look right there, there's a gray stripe on the black casing. So that stripe is the direction. This is the directional one, and needs to go on the side that has that stripe on the diagram. So with that, we're just going to heat up and tin one pad for now. Okay. We're going to lay it just like so. To make it easier, let me turn this around. Since I am right-handed. Okay, let me get the polarity correct here. Okay, we want that stripe on that stripe. Okay. Okay. me just feed just a little bit more onto that. There we go. Nice. And again, we're not going to attach that other side until we do the battery wires. Okay, the next step is mounting our 2-pin headers. And the trick to this is we're gonna, in fact, let me show you. They're gonna go in these 2 sets of holes here. Right there and right there. One says run and the other one says program. So we're gonna take the first one, we're gonna take the short end and drop it in the holes from the top until they stick out the bottom. Right there. And we're gonna lay a piece of masking tape over this to keep it positioned the way we want to. Just like so. And then we can solder those 2 pins right there. One. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. It's bouncing around on me just a little bit, so I'm going to tape it down. That solves so many problems. There we go. Okay, untape it. Okay, looks good. Now we're going to do the other pin in the 2 holes that say run. Like so. And same thing, we're going to tape it down. Now this one's tricky because we're working between items now. So we just got to be cautious and not touch the other stuff. Sorry, oh, the camera there. Okay. And see how that came out. Looks good. All right, excellent. Okay, now it's time for the 3-pin header, which is this one that's got the 90-degree angle in it. Now, what they call for you to do is, before we do it, we want to take some needle nose pliers and bend this back to a 45-degree angle. So we're going to take it from 90 to 45. So very gently bend that out like so. Okay, that might be a little more than 45, but you get the point. Okay, now it's going to go on those 3 long pads you see right there. So I'm going to turn the board this way and tape it down. And it's going to sit like so. Okay, so we're gonna, oops, we're gonna pre-tin this. Okay. Okay, I've got it preset for soldering on the battery wires, which are, you can see they're up here on this pigtail, and they're actually looped around to the other side of the board, but the soldering goes on this side. So once I get them in, I'll flip it over and show you how I've got them inserted into the holes. But let's go ahead and do the negative here. Okay. Now remember, on the positive side, we did not solder that diode on because we had to leave room for the solder for the wiring for the positive side. So we're going to solder the terminal on the board. We're going to solder the positive wire, and we're also going to solder the positive side of that diode. So we're going to be doing a lot of soldering here. So let me heat up that pad and feed the solder in between. There, now it's all connected as one. Nicely done. Okay, now as I promised, I'll flip it over and show you how I've got the pigtails for the wiring wired in. Okay, so you can see positive and negative wires go through the board right by the 3-pin jumper, and then solder next to the diode on the backside. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is off camera. I'm going to take this over to my computer, plug it in, and verify that all the attachments are good and it's communicating with the computer properly. Then when I'm done with that and verifying it's good to go, then I will come back and we'll solder on the RF module. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to take the RF module and lay a piece of masking tape across the bottom side to isolate any possible shorts that may occur. So what I'm going to do here is just lay a piece of tape along the bottom here. Like so. Then I'll take my knife and very gently cut across, leaving those seams there, and then we're just going to trim off the sides. Like so. Okay, there we have it. Now we're going to take our board and lay it across our circuit board like so. And we want to take some masking tape Now this one's not going to tape to the board yet. We're going to, or to the table. We're just going to tape it to the board, making sure that everything is lined up. Each of those little notches is lined up on a pad, and then we're lined up on top as well with those two. So I'm going to tape it down, securing it to the board. Okay. Now we'll tape it to the workbench. And we're just going to do one pin, and then we're going to go to the top side and attach another side, the other side to it. Okay. We're going to be doing a lot of undoing, but it's important to get these two sides in perfect alignment. Okay, I'm looking at it. That looks good. The top two still look good. So we're going to tape it down again, but now I'm going to tape it down to the side I can see. The other good thing about this tape is it prevents any splatter, if there were to be any, from landing across the circuitry. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get these two done, and then I'll flip it over again and we'll finish up the other side. Now they recommend that between each joint, you want to wait at least 30 seconds for the area to cool down, so you don't end up overheating the whole board. So it's been at least 30 seconds so I can safely do this side. Okay, nice. Okay, I'm gonna clean up the tip. You always want to keep your soldering iron tip nicely cleaned and tinned. In fact, you don't see it, but I pretty much clean it off after every solder joint and have it ready for the next one. Okay, we're going to do this other side next to it here. Okay. That way that side is done. Remove the tape. Okay, just inspecting now. I'm going to go ahead and cover this side up again. Okay, now this side I'm going to speed it up because I don't want you having to wait between each job 30 seconds. So I'll just go ahead and do it one at a time, and I'll speed it up in the video. Okay, that wraps up the completion of the soldering portion of the transmitter. And the last thing we need to do next is take our antenna and it will screw on to the bottom side there. Now I'm going to do this off camera, but I'm going to put a little bit of thread lock on this screw before putting it in. That way it'll keep it attached nicely. But so this transmitter is complete. I will do a full test on it outdoors, but assuming all goes well, because it's checked out to this point, it'll be ready to go on our next launch day. So this will help us if we go for any record altitude launches where we lose sight of the rocket. This will help us find it. So thanks for watching. That was a fun project. I love these little micro soldering jobs. Kind of gets addicting after a while. So hopefully I'll have more to come, but yeah, I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.